Doesn't this bring you back to like 2008? It's a Wednesday, so I'm chilling at home. I just built a desk and built my cart for my Cricut and all of that stuff. I'm just trying to like reorganize this room so that's like useful for not just me, but my dad likes to use it for his office stuff. But today we're talking about money. Money. And how I built my life around becoming a gymnastics coach, and some advice for you if you want to do that too. Let's get rolling. Let's settle down. It's just gymnastics. First point that I need to discuss is privilege. I think it's important to acknowledge that I had a little leg up on some things. First of all, I live in central Wisconsin. The price of living is not very high here. It's probably the lowest in the entire country, or one of the lowest. Second thing I'd like to acknowledge is that I'm very aware that I can walk into a bank and get a loan without too many questions. Somewhat for being a woman, I've had plenty of situations where I feel like they're looking at me like, you know what you're talking about, and I'm like, hell yeah, I do. I was a bit aggressive and cocky. I also want to acknowledge the fact that my family owns the gymnastics gym that I work at and grew up at. So obviously there's some advantages to that. But I'll get into like the things that I have done to prove myself and not rely on the fact that my family owns the gym. Just throwing that out there. It's not my direct family. It is my aunt and my uncle. And to be honest, my uncle doesn't really treat me like I'm family. I'm definitely more of an employee to him. And my last point of like privilege that I guess you could say I have is just having a very supportive family and having a supportive family on both sides, like my husband's side and my side. Both parents are very supportive. If we need anything, you know, we could definitely call them up if we needed to. I regret this. This is my second bubbler of the day and it's only 2 o'clock. Let's talk about how I got into coaching in the first place. I got into coaching in 2008 as a 17-year-old, and my mom was like, hey, you should probably get a job. She always wanted me to have a job. Since probably I was like 14, she thought it was important that I have a job, but with gymnastics, it just like really wasn't feasible. I like babysat, but I absolutely hated it. I didn't mind babysitting my siblings because they like to do the same things I did, but I definitely couldn't stand babysitting other people's kids. I like them now. So I got an assistant coach to one of the team coaches, and she also did like our preschool program and stuff, but I could tell she just really didn't like me that much, and she definitely didn't think I would make a very good coach. And looking back on that, yeah, I didn't really get it. It was like one of those situations where you're just like I was already like socially awkward and like quiet, so I was always like,
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Moving on, because that's definitely a whole different topic, but I think I definitely made like $7.25 or $7.50, whatever the minimum wage was at that point. I just don't remember working a lot. I don't even remember having my own rec group, to be honest. Until then I started coaching teams. My team coach had left halfway through the season, so I took over for her spot. Maybe that was my junior year. I don't know. The point is, I didn't work very long, and then I jumped into team coaching. And I think that's where I really started to fall in love with being a team coach, was just being in charge of that like team atmosphere, because we definitely didn't have that for my own team. And I think that's a whole nother topic again about like relationships with your coaches, relationships with your teammates, but we definitely didn't have like a team. It was very much an individual sport. So it just kind of felt fun to finally like be in control of that and be able to connect with these individual kids, but then help them connect with each other. So I really fell in love with coaching in my senior year of high school. Now I did go to college because I thought I had to, and everybody else went to college. So I definitely fell into that trap of like, okay, let's go to college, and I'm just gonna pick something kind of random that I'm passionate about. I was really into like sewing and design, and I had made a prom dress and my ball dress, my senior ball dress. So I was like, yeah, that sounds super cool. I'll just go for fashion design, realizing as I went to school my freshman year that, oh my gosh, like I like doing this as a hobby, but I do not want to do this as a career. My professors were obsessed with like New York City and LA and oh my gosh, the fashion scene, but like you guys probably won't even see the fashion scene because the reality is you'll probably just be a tech designer. Not everybody's meant to be a fashion designer. And if you especially want to design like wedding dresses and gowns and things, like get over yourself. Like that will never be you. And this is in the day and age before the internet where you couldn't just like get on and like start posting about your designs and stuff and then it like picks up traction. Like you had to work your tail off. Not saying you don't work your tail off, but you had to like work up in the ranks to get to that point. Now what? Because everybody's saying you can't do anything without a college degree, and you're not going to want to be a gymnastics coach making $7.50 for the rest of your life. So I moved back home my sophomore year to kind of figure it out. I take general education courses at our local college, and I continue to coach team because they needed me at that point. So I go back in the gym again. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love connecting with kids, loving that, or I love helping them through, life problems. It was just fun to go to work every single day. And then on top of that, I started doing more like administrative tasks, I guess you could say, helping with making big important decisions for the gym. Just like a sprinkle here and there, nothing like too crazy. My main focus was on team. And I think at that point I was probably making $9 an hour, maybe $10 an hour. But then that's kind of how I landed on psychology and majoring in psychology. I went back to the same school because I knew that they had a master's program in school counseling and I think school psych. And then I decided that I was going to live about 30 minutes outside of school at this, like in a bigger city, and I was going to coach gymnastics at the local YMCA. So here I am thinking I got it all figured out. I'm making $9.25 an hour, paying all my bills. I didn't have any help from my parents. I was just coaching a lot because I wanted to be in the gym. I loved it. So, it paid off to like love what I was doing. And then at the Y, I was gifted the opportunity to be even more involved with the program and seeing how a nonprofit runs versus how a business runs. So that was very fun to see the difference of that. And then I helped out a lot with big events like meets and how to run a meet. I definitely worked for little money, but all of these things definitely helped with experience in the end, and I would not be who I am today without that job. Oh, one thing to note, like still at this time, like while I'm trying to figure everything out and like I'm going to school or whatever, I'm going to college, like I said, like it was all, at that time, it was all about college. But it was also about finding a job with benefits. Blah, blah, blah. You're not going to be able to live without it. Gymnastics coaching is not a real job. So I get to my senior year and I need to pick what kind of grad school am I going to go to. So I do this internship at a juvenile prison, and they have a school in the middle of the prison, and it just so happens to have school psychs, school counselors, and obviously social workers. So I got experience with all three, and that's what led me to think that like I wanted help with school counseling. I ended up staying home because while I was working at the prison, I met my husband. Did try to make it work where I could stay at home and be near him, but also go to school. And I had to like go to my school every once in a while and do like classes in person, but for the most part it was all online. So that was convenient for me. And then it also was convenient because then I kept coaching gymnastics. So at this time, I was probably making $12 an hour. Okay, sorry, I had to put down my bangs finally. I'm in the middle of grad school. I'm also substitute teaching. And at night, I'm coaching gymnastics. I'm substitute teaching because I'm like, oh, they pay really well. And I'm getting, experience in the school. What a great opportunity. Except for the fact that I hated it. So I ended up only subbing if they absolutely needed me, and then I did mostly like elementary, and then I did a lot of like gym and physical fitness. But then at the same time that I decided to be done, we opened up a daytime program at the gym. So that was my opportunity to really step in like a full-time capacity. But that was just coaching. So I would coach from 12 to like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I think it was 9 o'clock back then. So I coached from 12 to 9 every day. I mean, it was still fun because of like this new thing with like having a daytime program and being able to coach a lot. But that was the issue. Like, I had so much coaching and so much team responsibility. I still didn't get to help out a lot with like the program and running that. Like, I ran some meets and things like that, but I didn't really get to like help run the business. I was just coaching. So at this time, I'm making $15 an hour. Now enters the chat of, okay, I fell in love with this guy and now we need to start like building a future together. And he's a teacher. He doesn't make a lot of money. I'm over here and I'm in grad school. Granted, we both don't have a lot of expenses. I had my car loan, which was maybe $300. And then for him, he didn't have a car loan because his parents gave him a vehicle, and he didn't have any he had just paid off all of his student loans. He didn't have a lot. Decided to move in together, and we paid $650 a month and split that. And again, we didn't have many expenses. So we just ended up saving all that money and like being like, okay, like now what? And through the discussion of sharing our life together, we knew that we needed to make more income when it came to like things that we wanted for the future and being able to retire early, or it was that, you know, one day we'd want to own a boat because we live in Wisconsin. Everybody has a boat. After the 2008 recession, a lot of people weren't building and buying homes, so they were remodeling homes. So HGTV was full of remodel shows, and one of them was Income Property, and I was obsessed with that show because I was like, yeah, cool, but like, look, you're fixing this place up and then you're renting it out. Hello. I knew this was gonna happen. I was talking for about a solid like 5-10 minutes and the camera shut off. My husband's not very one that just like jumps into things and like is an irrational person. That's definitely more me. I'm the more creative type and like, yeah, let's go for it. Boom. Bada boom, bada bing. But I knew that he would like go for it because his parents had owned duplexes, and we had my dad and my parents if we needed help because my dad works in construction. So if we really needed help, even though we were going to try to do this on our own and learn as we go, they would be there to help us, right? He decides to roll with my crazy idea that we're going to buy a duplex, but we're not just going to buy a duplex. We're going to buy one that's a little more like run down and needs some fixing up. We bought our first duplex. It was not the best deal, which we learned later on. Like, it could have definitely been better when you're looking at like the ratio between your mortgage versus how much you're bringing in and with the renovations and stuff. So there's like a process to that, and you might want to do your own research on BRRRR, like the BRRRR method, BRRR, something like that. We were able to only put 10% down because we went through a local credit union. If you're going to move into a property, it's not considered an income property, so we didn't have to put 25% down. It was just considered just like a regular home. And we did not have to pay, I don't know why, but we did not have to pay private mortgage insurance either. And I think it was just because we went through the small credit union. I always encourage people to look into those because I feel like they always have like better interest rates and better deals. We both had pretty good credit at that point. When I was in college, my mom had put me on the family credit card. So like I was building credit even though I wasn't really using the credit card, and she had always taught me like, don't ever use a credit card for things that you can't afford. Like, you need to pay it off every single month so that you're not paying for interest. So this was our process. We'd buy a duplex, we'd move in on one side, the side that needed the most fixing up. So we would like live in a construction zone for a while. So much fun. And then the other side, we would be renting out and they would be paying for the mortgage of the whole building. So with that, we were able to save up a big goose egg again for another duplex. And we did the same thing. And it was only like a year later, we would move out, move in, start fixing it up and live on that side, and rent out the other side that would pay for the mortgage. So after that first one that we fixed up and then we moved out, then we rented out that side. So everything from that side was direct income versus now in the other duplex, like we don't have, you know, like our cost of living for rent and mortgage is $0 because the person on the other side is paying for it. So we didn't really have a lot of expenses. So then We get to that second duplex. We move in after only a year, and that one was rough to live in, to say the least. But like I said, we had learned that you need to use like a burr strategy that has the best ratio that's going to make you like the most money per month. Insert, I finally graduate and I start my big girl job. And I'm a school counselor in a small rural school, and I make $41,000 a year with my master's degree. At that point, I finally understand. I'm like 25, 26, and now I finally understand what all those big numbers mean. And 41,000 for your master's degree and having to pay your student loans back, those don't exactly add up. But lucky for us, like I said, we had done all this prior, knowing that both of us being in education, we wouldn't be making a lot. So we would need extra income for things that we valued and wanted for ourselves and our future as a family. Now, I am a person who has a hard time taking things off my plate, and I continue to just add, and add. I have a hard time letting go of the things on that plate. And one of them was coaching. So I would be a school counselor all day, which is a very emotional roller coaster. Then I would go into coaching middle school gymnastics because they needed help and I was their person. Terrible idea, because we had to set up and take down equipment every single day. Then I'd drive 45 minutes and go coach club gymnastics. Just say I didn't last long. After 3 years of this, or 2.5 years of this, I had a full-on mental breakdown in my car, and I was sobbing uncontrollably. I remember the day that both my husband and I decided this isn't sustainable, and I knew I wasn't going to give up coaching. It was literally driving me to the point where I told him that I would rather drive off the road and die than go to school the next day. So that's when we had to make the financial decision and relook at things and take a step back and figure out, is this possible for me to take a step back and just go to coaching? I put in my resignation, and 2 weeks later, the pandemic struck and everything shut down. And then I was really like, oh crap, what did I just do? I just quit my job and the whole world shut down. Obviously, there's always the option to go back to school and try to look for another job at another school district. Sometimes it's just the situation, but I was like, nope, I'm faithful. This is going to work out. Like, we did this for a reason. We knew that it was a possibility that one of us wasn't going to stay in education just with the way things are going. So that's what I did. I still finished out the school year, so that wasn't an issue. I wasn't worried about a paycheck until that September. So that's where I kind of had to step in and use all my knowledge from being a school counselor and being heavily involved with programs at school. And because everything needs to be seen through a trauma lens, the school counselors and me were constantly in every single new program or every single initiative possible. So like, I had really seen how a school was organized inside and out. And then on top of that, to have like your own school counseling program, you got to have goals, you got to have measurable data, like things like that, and knowing how to build a program. That really helped me when it came to, okay, well, the gym might not have enough money to pay me my salary, my $43,000 at that point, but I needed to make it work then. So I did end up getting paid salary going back because they needed me anyways. So I think I made 30. I can do 30. We can make 30 work. But I knew in the back of my head that I was going to make this gym, and I was going to make that money back through hard work and reprogramming what we already had. Because really nobody was running anything. We had maybe 2 or 3 kids in each class, and we had maybe 3 classes at night of rec class, and really rec is where you make your money. That's when I decided that I was going to focus my attention on building up the rec program and focus on building a system. Because the conversation at school was always like, if you were to step out today, would another school counselor be able to step in and take your place? Was everything set up to be efficient? And so that's what I kept thinking in the back of my head, is if I walk away from this today, are there systems in place that someone else could just pick back up and things could keep running? And that's what I did. That might have to be a whole nother video, but I just think that goes to show, if you take the time to make it happen and you show your worth and you show that well, that you're worth having around and that you're going to make more money and you're going to be able to make things sustainable, then they should be able to pay you because it's sustainable. Anyways, I went from a few kids to a year later having at least 4 to 5 rec classes running at the same time and having wait lists on top of wait lists. Honestly, at that time, like, that made me feel so good. Like, I didn't even care about the money at that point. I was just like, this feels so good to like be helping these coaches help these gymnasts, and we're really building something for our community here. And that's really what struck me the most, is like so many kids now get to enjoy the sport of gymnastics that I love so much. I did end up getting a raise. And basically I've just, at this point, I've asked that I keep up with what I would be making as a school counselor. So beyond being able to like show your worth and know when to walk away. So like, if you're, like you build this and then you say, hey, look, you need me. Look what I did for you and your business. This is what I want in return. And they say, no, sorry, I can't do that. That's when you hit the door. Like, don't stick around. Like, you could do it somewhere else and someone else will value you. But also at that time, I think I just like tried to take advantage of every situation. Now, some things fell into my lap, like building this house. That just happened to fall into my lap. My parents had bought this land back in like 2012, maybe. I don't even know. But they paid like $30,000 for it. But it wasn't buildable. There's so many lots around and this lot is very dry. Like, there wasn't an issue with flooding or anything. No one had took the initiative because it takes like 5+ years. No one wanted to take that time and that energy to make it buildable, supposedly buildable from like FEMA. Either way, it was a nice lot. So they decided like we could always resell it later. So they took that opportunity. It wasn't even listed on anything. They just happened to be driving past it and they bought it, and then they put in all the paperwork, permits, whatever it is to make it a buildable lot. And that took over 5 years. So they had decided that they were going to build with my grandma, and they were building this like house with an in-law suite so that she could move in. After they sold one of my childhood houses that they had built, so that was kind of like their thing. They built a house, they moved out. They built another house, they moved out. Well, they decided to build a duplex with my grandma. She got kind of overwhelmed with that and decided she'd rather just stay put. And she was like, no, I don't want to move again. Like, I just want to live in this duplex. I'm fine. I don't want to build the house anymore. So then they looked at my husband and I, and they were like, well, do you guys want to do this? Because we're kind of thinking we want to downsize anyways. So we're going to move into the in-law suite, and then you could have like the main portion of the house. We were like, heck to the yeah. Why, what? We're going to live on a lake and we're going to have free daycare one day? When I say like taking advantage of the perfect timing, is we put in everything right before COVID, so we didn't have to pay the astronomical prices that came with after COVID hit. And the other thing was, while everything was shut down is when we started building. So we were able to quickly do our schoolwork during the day, and then we'd come here in the afternoon and in the evening, and we'd be building a house. We built our own house. As you can see, there's a lot of things that aren't finished because there's no molding around the door, no paint on this door. I live on the lake in this gorgeous house that I built myself with my own 2 hands. Never underestimate your capabilities, and always be learning from mistakes, and don't cut yourself short. If you have a passion and a natural talent for something, like, you can learn how to do it as you go. Take opportunities when you see them, but also like, do things yourself. Like, you got it. And there's certain things I'm willing to pay for, and there's certain things I'm not willing to pay for. And that's part of like that talk about money and the things that you value and are willing to spend money on, and things that you aren't willing to spend money on. I'm not willing to spend money on my hair anymore. I cut my own hair. I color my own hair. Nails, if I get them done, it's a special treat, maybe once every 2 years. Otherwise, I'm doing my nails at home, or I'm not doing them at all. Like, there's just certain things that we're willing to pay for and certain things we're not willing to pay for. And it saves hell of a lot of money. And the last little example I have is just like trying to like read things. Like, if you see a situation that's in your favor, do your research. When I bought my car back in 2019, they had told me I really wanted this car, but they had told me that eventually the coolant or something with the air conditioning was going to go out, but it hadn't yet. So, because it had like a crack in it. So I was like, oh, okay. So I knew I had to get my car fixed down the road. Well, then in 2021, there was like this crazy like thing going on. I saw on the news about like used cars and how crazy it was, like the high value a used car had. Okay, well, let me look and see how much I need to trade in this car, because pretty soon I'm gonna have to get it fixed anyways. Maybe it's worth trading in now and getting a different car instead. So I did my research, I did my homework, figured out what kind of car I wanted. I knew I wanted the exact same car, just a brand new one. Before that, I will tell you that I've always been told my whole life, do not buy a new car. The second you drive it off the lot, it's not going to be worth it. Special circumstances here, but I did end up buying a new car. I knew what I wanted for my trade-in, and I knew what I wanted for the purchase of the car. And I also knew that they would try to trick me into things and be all salesy and whatever. So I did my homework with it. What exactly should I be looking for? What exactly should I be saying? Talked to my husband. I said, hey, I think this is a really good opportunity. I could get a trade-in for my used car that is more than I even paid for it, and put it towards a brand new car that hasn't like crazy skyrocketed, and I think it's a good deal. So like, can I do it? And he's like, yeah, if you get it for exactly what you said. I think he told me I had to do it on my own, but like I was prepared to do it on my own. So the first dealership I walked in, they did the little thing where they walk around your car to figure out the value of your trade-in. And they do this thing where they like nitpick at things. And as a buyer, you're supposed to just stand there and let them pick it apart and say nothing. Just stand there and say nothing. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, you're just trying to get in my head. Good for you. Like, you're playing the game that I thought you were going to play. Then we go over to chit chat numbers. I test drive the car that I want. It's not really in the color I want, but I like wanted the all-wheel drive, which my car was not all-wheel drive. That was the other reason why I wanted to buy a new car. But he kept wanting to talk to me about like my monthly payment. And I was like, I'm not willing to talk about my monthly payment. I want to talk about how much you're going to give me for the trade-in and how much the car is going to be. Like, you're trying to trick me with this trade-in, whatever, blah, 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 this monthly payment thing. And he knew and I knew, and we were button heads, and he was being rude as hell. So I finally walked out because I was like, you're not going to be helpful, and you're getting literally mad at me as the customer. You're getting mad at me because I'm not playing your games. So I walk out. I go to another car dealership, which actually just happened to be right down the road. He was very respectful. Now, he did a little trick thing that I'll get into in a second, but he was being very respectful. And I was like, I want this for my trade-in. And he was like, got it, let's do it. Then came the time to talk about the price of the car. Well, they had two that were white on the lot. One was all-wheel drive, but it wasn't as like fancy of a trim. And then the other one had like the fancier trim, but was not all-wheel drive. So I sat there for about 10 minutes because the all-wheel drive was a little more of a price than the front-wheel drive, but I wanted the price of the front-wheel drive and for the all-wheel drive. So because that's the numbers I had talked about, and that's what I wanted to get for the car. And this was already after he had dropped both of them a little bit. So I sat there with these two pieces of paper, and I sat there going back and forth, like looking at them. I was just like debating on like, do I cave? Do I do it? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna sit here and look like I'm in really deep thought, even though like I'm really hoping, like, what's my next move here? What's my next, like, I'm playing chess. What's my next move? How can I be strategic about it? Not knowing that that was a strategy. I was being quiet and I was making him uncomfortable, and he looked like he just wanted to make a deal. I had said, well, you know, I would really like this all-wheel drive for $22,200. That's where he tricked me. Finally, he was like, okay, I'll give you that one. I wanted it for $22,000. He did $22,200. So he tricked me out of $200. All right, fine. You can have $200. Like, I was like, that's so stupid, but whatever. It doesn't matter now, because now if I went to go trade in my car, or if I went to go sell my car, it's worth exactly what I paid for it on the lot back in 2021. I am not sad about it. The best part about this whole situation is that I got a 0.99% interest rate because of everything that was going on at the time. So that was the other reason why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to take advantage of such low interest rates at the time. I guess it's just like part of how I like figure out if something is a good deal and if it's going to benefit me, is like I'm constantly watching things like the market right now, the housing market. We know like right now is not the time, but if we see an opportunity, we're going to do our homework, we're going to figure it out, and then we're going to try to take a stab at it. So I really like to think about that with a lot of different things. Is like, is this a good opportunity? Do I need to do more of my homework? And let's jump in and take it. Because then too, like you're gonna be more confident. You're not gonna feel like you're stabbing in the dark. It's definitely a dopamine hit. It messes with your brain a little bit. Walking out of that car dealership knowing that I had a 0.99% interest rate and I got the deal of what felt like a lifetime. Wild. So I think that just teaches you to like be patient, study the things that are going on so you know when to make the right move. Don't just stab in the dark and make an uneducated guess. You're not making a leap of faith. You should feel pretty confident because you've done your research, you've done your homework, and you waited patiently. Coming up next, for my husband and I, we are building a treehouse because we recognize that the market is not where it's at, but we still have a passion for like building and being like hands-on with things that we enjoy to do together. We're doing a treehouse and hopefully we'll be renting it out on Airbnb. So for us right now, that just seems like the more logical thing to do because it's like a special experience. I know Airbnbs are kind of like, I guess, going out of style, or like people are getting frustrated with Airbnb, which I don't blame them, but I feel like ours is a special experience. I think that's what people are searching for when they think Airbnb. It's not always like a cheap place, which has not become a cheap place anymore. So that's why we decided to do the treehouse. Plus we're just like I said, we're just passionate about projects and like having fun with it. So that's kind of where we're going next, since the market kind of has to settle down before we start looking into other places or other avenues. You know, that might not be our thing anymore because like it's just not working out in our favor anymore and we don't find that it's matching up with our values. So we're just not going to do that anymore. And that's okay too. I think we have so many passions and talents that we could always find something to do next. Like social media for me. You know, that does bring me in money, but like not an insane amount. So how do I capitalize on that? I obviously have a passion for design. So what did I do? I took some of that social media money. I applied it to doing this like merch thing, I guess. I don't know if you want to call it merch, but this all around threads to then help bounce into helping pay off my student loans. I guess that's my final point. I definitely see everything as very like transactional. Like if I want something, how am I going to leverage what I already have, and how am I going to apply my hard work and my knowledge, or how am I going to learn? I think of like, okay, going to Congress, you know, a gymnastics conference. That would be an amazing experience for my coaches, and they would be able to bond and work better together, but then they would also have more knowledge to be able to apply it in the gym and be better coaches. I don't have the money for that, so what are we going to do? How are we going to figure it out to make more money? Well, we're not going to be able to get more kids in classes because that's already done. So I'm going to start doing rec meets. So our rec meets have been paying for the girls to go to Congress, and then that leads into them being better coaches. And when they're better coaches, I can ask for more money from the parents, and asking for money leads to an increase into their pay. So I hope this video helps somebody out there, or I hope it like sparks some ideas for you. But really, I think now of any time is a perfect time to get started with whatever it is that you want to do because of the internet. So maybe you can't be a full-time gymnastics coach in your gym yet. You're still figuring out a way to do that and working with gym owners and how to do that. But on the side, maybe you start doing social media coaching and you start posting tip videos. People submit videos to you and you give them feedback and tips. I have so many ideas and I would love to help people out if you wanted to talk about it. And we could talk about individual cases, but I just wanted to like give an overview of like how I moved into this house. And because I think people often see that and they're like, you're a gymnastics coach, but you live in this house. Like, it really comes down to, in my opinion, like taking advantage of situations, making sure you're very knowledgeable in your decisions, and also living under your means and being able to sacrifice for a little while if needed. And looking at your own personal strengths. Like, you might not flip houses like I did, but there's other things out there that you definitely could be doing and capitalizing on that you have a talent for. Okay, so my phone's telling me I'm done because I just ran out of storage, so I gotta go, but Let's chat more next time. I think we're going to be talking about some mental health slash body dysmorphia kind of stuff. So there's your trigger warning. But until next time, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on my next video. Bye!